Two teenagers in Dillford are escaping a pack of vampires on a Friday night. When they turn to look behind them, they witness 3 of the bloodsuckers attacking another person, and they break into a house nearby only to discover it to be full of zombies. While others enter via the windows, a vampire takes the girl through the entrance. The gang of monsters begins engaging in combat as the teenage lad pulls the girl away. Petra Lane, meanwhile, timidly makes out with popular vampire Milan. When geeky guy Ned Mosley tries to open his locker behind them, Ned is slammed to the ground by another vampire while Milan growls at him. Ned tries to talk to vampire instructor Mr. Keller, who gave him a failing mark, later in the teacher's lounge. On a helpless Ned, Mr. Keller launches into a tirade about his 97-year career before ultimately conceding that handing him a F was an act of power. Dag tosses the ball directly into Chaz Jr.'s eye out of pure nervousness, which causes him to fall. Petra and Milan are having sex in a trailer during the vamp party that night. Petra fears they will just be getting close and is terrified as Milan attempts to bite her neck. The vampire admits that although he had sex with Lorelei before, he wants something more special with Petra. At the same time, Ned's father chastises Chaz Jr. for getting hurt at the dinner table with the Mosley family. Ned asks to go but is instead teased because he dislikes riblets. Ned says he has a meat allergy and adds that the riblets include a variety of chemicals. Later, Ned informs his parents with sincerity that he has ambitions, but they urge him to choose for a less aspirational existence. Ned departs the house because he is upset by their lack of interest. Later that evening, Ned witnesses the zombies in an area where collars are prohibited. The zombie girl who previously attempted to assist him approaches him, and he is amazed by how well liked everyone seems to be. Ned manipulates the zombie girl into biting his foot in order to become infected because he becomes envious of how heartless and emotionless the zombies are. Petra is beginning to experience the effects of Milan's bite at around the same time as she rests in her bed. She discovers that her reflection is gone when she looks in the mirror. She visits a supermarket to acquire blood-related items. Later that evening, a large alien ship hovering in the sky with a brilliant light emitting from it abruptly diverts their attention. After a few days, Rick addresses the assembled members of the human society in the gym of the high school. The vampires are not present for the meeting, and Chaz Sr. speculates that they may have spoken to aliens. Mr. Keller speaks to a mob of vampires at the Dillford blood bank, suggesting that people have teamed up with aliens to eradicate the vampire population. Ned rallies the zombies at the zombie installation to attack the other 2 groups, and he then directs the brain-starved animals in the direction of the town. The 3 groups fight one another bloodily that evening in the town center. Petra confronts Milan in another place. Petra tries to assault him out of wrath but is instead thrown into a vehicle. The door is broken in by a vampire carrying a human as Dag and Lorelei attempt to get it on. The 2 teenagers flee out the window, and while they are being attacked by a pack of vampires, they are saved by Chaz Sr., who arrives with wooden stakes. He stabs the vampire that assaulted Lorelei and then uses skillful maneuvers to defeat the remaining vampires. Several zombies assault Chaz Sr. as he recalls his anti-vampire training, and they begin to slowly consume him. When vampires notice Dag and Lorelei, they start to flee as they are watching in dread. Dag and Lorelei successfully enter a pitch-black home where they discover Ned and a horde of zombies. Vampires also barge in, causing chaos. Petra loses control and tries to grasp Lorelei as she and Dag try to flee upstairs. Petra bites at her neck while Dag freezes in place. He grabs hold of something sharp and wooden, but Ned pushes him away as he tries to stab Petra. A second vampire attacks Dag, but he kills it by stabbing it with a wooden fish decoration. When a police car barrels into the home and knocks over the bald vampire, a brilliant light causes Dag, Petra, and Ned to get disoriented, resulting in a standoff. When they peek outside, they find the alien spacecraft spewing a material that resembles smoke and covering the town. The teenagers watch in astonishment, until Dag recovers and begins pounding on a trapdoor, requesting a Mrs. Miller. The son of Mrs. Miller, Stuart, responds by posing a series of absurd queries to Dag. Stuart checks Dag's identity and then opens the door. Dag quickly turns around after hearing screaming as he prepares to close the trapdoor. Petra and Ned are already devouring Stuart and Mrs. Miller, much to his disgust. Dag prepares to fight, but Petra convinces him to stay with them because their only chance of surviving is through working together. They talk until Petra challenges Dag's desire to Lorelei and claims he hesitated to save her later that night. Dag disputes this, but Petra responds that if he truly cared, he would just dive in. The conversation between Dag and Petra reaches their parents. Dag learns that Petra is an orphan, but Petra believes her parents are great. They also find that Ned's mind returns more fully the longer he goes without consuming brains. They leave the Miller's basement the following morning, but Petra passes out in the sunshine. To conceal Petra, Dag instantly takes his clothing off. The group decides to separate and reconvene at the high school, but Dag trips over a clothesline as an alien approaches from behind. First to return to the high school are Petra and Ned, followed shortly after by Dag, who is still in his undies. On his way to school, Dag comments to Petra about how the aliens appear to ignore him. Ned speculates that the aliens can avoid being observed because they only notice the inorganic material in clothing. They get at Dag's place in their undies but discover it to be vacant. As they get ready and search the basement for Dag's parents, an alien appears from behind Ned and assaults them. Just as Petra cuts off the alien's head, the zombie kid then disintegrates. Dag confesses to Petra his remorse about Ned that evening. The two cry in relief as Ned unexpectedly appears in one piece. Ned learns that the aliens just transport anybody who is stabbed by one of their tentacles. He concludes that everyone from Dillford is merely hidden away, rather than dead. Ned also discovered that the aliens are searching for the TXP in Malphista's riblets. He displays to Dag and Petra the horrendous allergic response he experienced as evidence. The following day, Rick permits Dag, Petra, and Ned entry to the Malphista riblet facility. To persuade Rick to give the aliens the riblets, Dag and Petra play to his conceit. However, Rick just treats the populace with contempt while agitating Dag until they hear a scream. They flee when they see Ned devouring Daisy, Rick's secretary, which makes Rick angry and makes him toss them out. In order to go to where the residents of Dillford are being held captive, the three get deliberately stabbed by two aliens. The group is whisked to a Polway superstore where a force field has been placed to keep each species apart. Dag ultimately discovers his parents alive and well, while Ned reunites with his zombieized father and sibling. Lorelei also made it through, albeit she is now evolved into a stunning vampire, to Petra's surprise and dismay. Ned is discovered by Dag and Petra, who urge him to come up with a plan to disable the force barriers. Ned devises a DOS attack strategy to overload and short out the security system after a tremendous amount of effort. This requires that everyone in the Polway simultaneously strike every force field. As the inhabitants charge the force fields, the system is shorted out, and it is destroyed. Rick prevents the last Dillford survivors from reaching the riblet factory. Dag pleads with Rick once again. Rick opens the door for them, and the aliens rush in shortly after. The vat's contents swirl as the aliens all jump in it, growing to create a 90-foot-tall humanoid alien creature. The alien tells that they calmly arrived for the TXP and that the community thereafter went insane with a German accent. The gigantic extraterrestrial continues to lecture the people in a patronizing manner while quoting a Billy Joel song. The alien attacks the crowd after Petra pulls back and Rick attacks it with a wrench. Mr. Keller is struck by flying crimson drips. Dag swiftly persuades Mrs. Mosley to spray ammonia on the enormous extraterrestrial as the spray begins to dissolve it. Milan seizes Petra in the meanwhile and hurls her into a storage area. Moments later, Dag realizes this and, recalling Petra's remarks about pausing, leaps at Milan. Before departing, Milan chokes Dag, knocking him out and exposing the youngster to the full moon. As his arm heals, Dag opens his eyes and changes into a hairy monster, recognizing that this is the metamorphosis his parents had attempted to explain to him. Dag, who has transformed into a werewolf, the ammonia hosing finally takes its toll on the enormous extraterrestrial, who is now just a little size. It makes its way back up to the spacecraft where it primes an explosion powered by subatomic fusion to destroy the town. The bomb is thrown back to the alien spacecraft by werewolf Dag after being caught by Ned and thrown in a ball form. The spaceship explodes dramatically. Days later, Dag is now a popular student at Dillford High School and even gets flirted with by Lorelei. He heads over to Petra instead of accepting the vampire girl's request to eat with her.